Hi, I'm Paul Laney, the retired sheriff from Cass County, North Dakota, and the current vice president of national sales for Turnkey Corrections.
And I'm Lauren Matthews, and I'm the current social media and content specialist for Turnkey.
And you are listening to JailTalk, and today we have a pretty cool episode, one that I think is going to resonate with a lot of people. It's maybe a different topic than you would have us or be used to here on JailTalk, but one that, as public servants and people that work in the sheriff's world, in the jail world, we're going to have a topic here that most of us never ever want to have to talk about. We have a very special guest and a very special friend, our sheriff right here from our backyard.
Yes.
Sheriff Nancy Hove with the Pierce County, Wisconsin Sheriff's Office, and we're going to talk a very interesting topic today. And we're going to talk sheriffing, we're going to talk public service, we're going to talk running an agency, we're going to talk all of that. And we're going to talk about that when you are in a position where you've received some pretty devastating news, and how do you handle that? And we know you handled it like a rock star, the rock star that you are. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. So, Sheriff Nancy, you're just Sheriff Nancy to me.
That's it.
It's just it. And as we've got to know each other over the years, we've become very, very close. And we're gonna talk about this a little bit. It hasn't left my wrist since the day you gave it to me, and we're gonna talk about a pretty intense topic today. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll go from there. We're gonna talk about that topic in just a second, but you got to talk now. You got some things you got to say.
Gosh, give me a chance. Well, Sheriff, why don't you just share with all of our listeners a little bit about your background and about yourself?
Been sheriff for 16 years with Pierce County. Before that was police officer for the village of Ellsworth and for the Pierce County Sheriff's Department. By the time I retire, hopefully I'll have about 37 years into this job, so looking forward to that. It's been a great career. I love what I do. Love being sheriff, and the people of Pierce County are awesome. That's all I can say.
They are. We're blessed to work with you on a regular basis, both in our life here at Turnkey, but just getting to know you. The fact you are our sheriff, right here in our backyard. Where our headquarters is we border Pierce County, and we're in St. Croix County, and we see you a lot. We get to hang out with you a lot, and then we got to go through something with you. For our listeners, I'm going to quit teasing it. I'm just going to let you tell our listeners you went through a nightmare. You went through a nightmare that none of us ever want to hear. Can you tell our listeners what happened?
Well, we all kind of went through a nightmare in 2020. In fact, it was kind of an interesting year for all of us with COVID.
And that wasn't enough for you.
That wasn't enough for me. I had to add on. So between that and the riots and etc., I just decided one day didn't feel very good and ended up in my doctor's office and with a severe headache. And at that point, I was told I had a brain tumor. It was on a Wednesday. I won't forget it. And didn't believe it to start with and didn't know what to do and where to go. And of course, my husband lives in South Dakota, so it wasn't like I had family to run home to. But after that, by that Friday, I was in surgery having brain surgery. And we just kept going from there.
And you have just kept going. And that's a little bit of what we're going to talk about today.
Mm-hmm. Well, what is your next step in something like that? I mean, I can't even imagine getting news like that. And like you said, you were kind of alone for that day. So not only do you have an entire family that you have to, go through this with, but you also have a commitment to a community that you're serving. So what were your next steps then after you got that news?
First was trying to believe it and understand it and sit with my doctor to see what was next. And thank God I have a wonderful doctor who basically kind of had it all laid out for me. And I just took his advice and ran with it. Contacted my family. My husband started a new job, so he couldn't even make it home to be with me for the surgery. So my sisters had to step up the plate, and I have a great staff. My staff at work was behind me 110% and just stepped right in to help out. So that was the next step, just trying to figure out how to get rid of it right away and move forward. But it didn't end just within a couple of days, so that was a longer journey.
Well, it's got to be tough, and I think jumping back a little bit, talking about that process, because as sheriffs, we already think we're invincible. We run for office. We do this stuff because we're all type A's. We're not shy people. I am. Lauren's been kind of trying to bring me out of my shell a little bit. I'm working on it. But in all seriousness, we're not shy people. We're used to being in command. We're used to being in charge. We're used to, walking in a room and commanding a room, and we don't get sick. We don't get to take days off. We don't have time to be sick. We don't have time to take days off. And we have people looking to us. And so I imagine you just had to have this plethora of emotions slamming into you at that time.
And it was like, I want to get it done now because I'm one of those people. I have no patience. You can ask my doctors. Get preached at that every day. So it was like, I want to be fixed now. I got to get back to work. And besides my staff being wonderful and supportive, I literally took my phone and computer to the hospital with me. So after surgery, I had it during all my chemo appointments. Spent many days and weeks in the hospital with that, but I just kept plugging along. And actually, I hate to say it, probably the job kept me alive. My friends, the whole county riled right up. They got together. They sent prayers. They sent stuff, and we just worked on it together.
So what's the process of something like that now? For any of us that have been in your shoes, and what did your doctor start with? You said, you went from an appointment. You're coming up on a year.
Yeah.
Aren't you already? Wow.
Yes. 9/11.
9/11. Wow, that has special significance all over for you, doesn't it? So didn't you just get notified on the 9th, and already 2 days later you were in there?
Correct. I found out the afternoon of the 9th after 2 drives to the doctor for scans, and he had me set up for surgery already Friday morning. So Thursday night was at the hospital. Ended up sleeping in the area, basically open area, just because they had no beds at the hospital because of COVID. So then we waited for surgery in the morning and did surgery and come out of that and come to find out they couldn't take it. So it was like, oh, wait a minute here. So it was a whole new process and a whole new start.
So how long were you in the hospital for then?
About 3 days, if that.
Well, 3 days?
Yeah. Maybe.
For brain surgery. Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't very long. It was in and out. They didn't have beds, so I slept on a couch in the hallway. So that was interesting. And you couldn't have ice because ice machines were turned off because of COVID. And so it was a whole new experience to an issue that you like, what am I doing? Where am I and where am I going?
Wow. So you talked about if anybody knows that, it doesn't shock me. You brought your computer and everything to the hospital with you, but all that aside, how do you handle that? We all know the commitments we have as sheriff. We have those external commitments, those public commitments. People expect to see us. We work for them. We belong to the public. We're their elected law enforcement leaders. So we have that. Then you have a staff inside. You run a decent sized jail. You have a lot of stuff happening. How did you balance being an elected official and while you're going through all that? How did you do that?
Balance was tough to start with because, as you know, as sheriff, you want to be in control of everything. Giving up control of some things was easy. Some was not so easy. But just going back to our community, we have a wonderful community. And between that, my staff, everybody pitched in. We all did our thing. They let me heal and let me do what I needed to do. And I'm kind of a workaholic a little bit. Being sheriff, as you know, you're going all the time. And so to stop, which the doctors wanted you to do, was to rest. Well, I didn't have time for that. Yeah. But that kept you going, and it kept me going. It kept my spirits up, kept me going, and I get great friends and put it out on Facebook, let people know what was going on.
That was one of the things I was going to ask you about that. Some people, when they're sick or they're hurt, don't want anybody to know. Mm-hmm. We have that bunker mentality, like we talked about earlier. We're used to being in command. We're used to being in charge. We're used to being in a way respected. We're used to being, when you walk into the room, Sheriff Nancy's here and getting it done. And now we're hurt. And now you're going through a major thing. It's not like you can hide it. Mm-hmm. Obviously, mm-hmm. you had we knew you now, and your hair is looking great. It's coming back strong, and
kind of goes wherever it wants. Kind of like me.
Very fitting for the woman underneath that hair. It's how did you tell the public, and what kind of when you did the notification, and I know Lauren has some follow-up stuff she's going to ask you about that part of it, but how did you tell them? And you said you talked about, and what did you say? And then how did you tell your staff?
Facebook was for the public. Put it out on that I just needed prayers, and kind of told them what's going on. My staff, I sent out an email to all, and it called in or stopped in if I could, depending on where I was in my whole situation. But to check in to see how things were going, how people are doing, and just kind of kept open about it. I had nothing to hide. I mean, it's kind of hard to hide when your hair's gone and missing and you're not there. But and I always kept in contact with between phone, computer, whatever it was I may had at the time. Just tried to stay in contact with everybody and kept going. And like I said, it was those people who kept me going.
What about the commissioners? Like you, how did that work with them? Did you go before a commission meeting, or did you notify them by? I mean, like it happened so fast for you. How did you do that part of it? I mean, being as sheriffs, we know we work so closely with commissions, and we work so closely with the other elected leaders within the county. How did you handle that part of it?
Basically, I notified our county administrator and a couple of our county board leaders, and just told them what was going on. At that point, they passed the word on to the rest of the group, and we dealt with it through that. As I come back, are they as supportive as I thought they were going to be? Probably not, but we got through it, and we're getting through it as we speak.
Yeah, because you're still kind of going on. This year will air a little bit down the line here, and you'll have actually when it airs, you'll be already past your 1 year. Yeah. And as we're coming up on that, when you said that today, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's right, that's already happening here, like next month, and that's just how does that resonate with you?
It's hard to believe it's been a year. I just it still seems like yesterday when I got the news. I mean, I can see it in my dreams actually, because that's news you just don't want to hear. Yeah. And that C word to anybody is awful. And so, but I'm looking at it going, here I'm a year. It hasn't come back, and we're still get tested every 2 months to make sure it's not there. And
well, I know the last time you went on, we were all waiting for that text from you and all that, like where are you at and how's it going? And man, I know when I got that text from you, I was just like, yes, thank you, God. Thank you. She's going the right direction. And, it was so different, being at some of the conferences, because she's obviously very involved with the Wisconsin, the Badger State Sheriff's Group. And you've also been really involved with the Wisconsin Sheriffs and Deputies Group. So you're a leader in both of those arenas. And seeing at you some of the conferences, and you could just see you could tell you'd taken a punch. I mean, and yet you were the same old Nancy. That smile was always there. She likes to talk some smack and just telling you she's pretty good at it. And, I saw that, but you could also tell you were hurt, and you could tell that, and now to see you back again, and that first visit back had to be really scary.
Well, of course you're waiting for that one that 1 minute again. Is they going to say, is it there? Is it gone? Is it here? Is it where is it? What are you going to do? And so you sit there and you're waiting, and they're, it's another day at work for them, so they're in no hurry, and you're like, come on, please. And I have no patience again, as I said. So I get very impatient with them, and they look at me, just kind of stare me down. But so far so good, and we'll keep going forward. And literally, I only missed the one BSSA meeting in the whole time, and they made it special for me for the one to come back to, so I could make it there. And
that was pretty cool. You tell that story a little bit, because that was pretty neat when we saw what they did. You're talking about with the quilt, right?
With the quilt, they made a blanket. It's the state of Wisconsin now with every county, and every sheriff's patch is on each county, and sent it to me, and they had it delivered via sheriffs from one county to the next, all signed off. Different times that they picked it up and delivered it. So It was a special delivery that came.
We always talk about in the sheriff's world, we're a family, and that's when you see it when times are tough. You see it in the critical incidents, you see it in the officer involved shootings, you see it in all that kind of stuff. But then you really see it when we all come together for one of our own, and that was neat to watch that happen and see that happen, know it was going to happen, and we've talked to you about doing some things for you in the past that we want to do a celebration when you're ready to do that, and it just and kind of rock out with you, because the rumor has it you like to have fun. And
I for some reason I'm kind of a party animal. But yeah, it's like I said, the sheriffs are a family, and they've been awesome. And no matter what state you're from, sheriffs everywhere we're all one. No matter who we are, what we believe, when shit hits the fan, we're all there.
And you talk about that in, our motto, in the NSA model, the National Sheriff's Association, is one of our mottos is no sheriff stands alone. And we've said that, and it definitely is referred to during crisis. And it's referred to, when you look at all the riots and you look at all the things that have happened around the country, and we're all there for each other. I went through that through the pipeline protests, back in 16 and 17, and sheriff's offices around the country said as hell, no sheriff stands alone, no sheriff stands alone. And it's when we're in personal crisis, when we're having a bad thing. And if you look at your band, you gave me this a while back, and it's never come off my arm. That's just no sheriff stands alone. And, it says right there, Sheriff Nancy, and on it, no sheriff stands alone. And
you get a new one.
You do need to give me. I've worn this thing. Like I said, it's just the day you gave it to me is just my support for you to say no sheriff stands alone. She's not alone. I'm here with her, and will always be here with her as a sheriff and as a friend. And that's the least I can do is do that. But no sheriff does stand alone, and I think that resonates, and that's something we all have to realize that within our agencies and with our people that we're not alone. And when you go through something like this, you've got to, we've got a public that wants to support us and wants to stand behind us. And I know you have a question about that as well.
Kind of off script, but it seems like you've had such a positive attitude going through what you've been going through, that personal crisis. Do you have advice for other sheriffs who, maybe it's not cancer, but everyone goes through personal crisis. Do you have advice, like how do you go through that and be the leader that you are?
I don't know if I have the words of wisdom, but I think a lot of it, I've got great friends, I've got great family, and like you said, the support. If it wasn't for that, sitting in a corner pouting doesn't get you anywhere. I look at it, it's another chance at life. I've got things to do. I've got things I got to get done in my life, and I guess I'm here for a reason, so we're going to make it happen. And sitting, pouting about it or worrying about it is not going to get me there. And like I said, I like that fun, and that's my motto. Keep her going. So.
And that is very much you. I've, over the year, we've had very serious conversations about the sheriff's world and what's going on, and compare notes on different things that have happened. Or you and I have talked about different issues, or I've connected you with people I've had when you had some jail questions on certain things. That's the one thing, we never stand alone that way. But we've also that camaraderie, that brotherhood, that sisterhood. That's always there is so important. And I think we all have to. It goes back to that. You were the role model of just putting it out there and letting people be okay, helping take care of you and helping support you.
And that's very hard.
That's very hard. That's very hard.
Very
hard. I guarantee you, every one of you listening out there are exactly the same way.
Yeah.
It's hard for us to let our guard down and let people know that we need help. And, Dr. Miller's talked about that, the emotional support that we all need and how to look for that. And we are all a family, and it's hard because, you and I are close. We've known each other long, for a while now. And it's hard to also, what does she need from me? And what does she want from us? Where's too much? Where are we in her space? And she doesn't want that. And where are we not there enough to leave her hanging? You know what you do? You ask. What can we do? We're here for you. That, like you said, how much that mattered to you. Yep. That you was like, what? I'm not alone. And how did your staff react? How did they when you went and delivered that message?
Mixed emotions both ways. A lot of hopefully some of them were sad about it, but I think just the more I got to buck up, I got to come forward, I got to help out, I got to do what I can do, and they're in the same boat. It's like, do I bring dinners over? Do I not? And when you're sitting there sick and you don't want to eat, and everybody's bringing you food, it's like, oh gosh, please stop. But they just they stepped where they could and did what they could, and if they had questions, thank God right now for computers and phones, and it made conversations go. And but it was tough. It was a tough conversation to have with all of them.
Did you ever feel, I guess, from the sheriff's shoes, did you ever feel like you weren't able to run the office, was there more just like days and hours where like, I just can't right now, but you knew you had that support team, but for the most part, because of technology and all that, it was like, I'm on top of it. I might not be at my A game, but I'm giving it a good B+. kind of thing, or how did you run your office?
Yeah, and the admin staff took, my jail administrator, my chief deputy, my lieutenants and sergeants, all of them, actually the whole staff, just took control and did their thing. They did their job. They held the ship up basically, and with the ability to be able to contact or talk, we still could make communication, do what I needed to do. I do recall being on a meeting during one of my chemo treatments with the judge, and of course they injected some medicine into me at that time, and the meeting went a little different, and the judge goes, "Are you okay?" And I had to tell him basically that I think I better hang up here at this point, but I was getting Benadryl and it was knocking me out. So he was laughing on the other end. But so that's how we ran our meetings. We just kind of went with it, and everybody was understanding. I mean, there was no issues in that direction.
Does it really get any more badass than that? Sheriff, what are you doing? Well, I'm getting chemo right now, but I want to talk to you about that point you just made. I don't agree with that, Judge. Here, wait a minute, they're putting the chemo in. I mean, that is that not the epitome of the sheriff's world, though, and our commitment to our public and what we do. And you've always been the epitome of that. Like I said, you're always a blast to be around. You're a joy to be around, but you're so serious about the office of sheriff and the job you do. And I think that's why we resonate, because and why we get along so well together, because we belong to the public, and we know that, and that doesn't quit because we're down.
And the office of the sheriff is an important spot, and people nowadays are starting to realize that more than ever. And you need to be there, and you need to keep the world going. Basically, is what you're doing, because you're the kind of the pivot point. And when you have to step down or step back, it does make it hard. And I'm kind of a little bit of a control freak, but I think that comes with
a sheriff who's a control freak.
Kind of hard to believe.
My gosh, glad I'm not like that at all, Lauren.
Right. Yep. Smiling.
But it's just you get in your way, and you got your path, and you got your direction, and you want to keep it going. And I mean, after 16 years, I kind of gotten set in my path a little bit. I'll be honest.
Well, we're coming to the end of the show, and is there any final words of advice or wisdom that you can give Lauren and I and all of our listeners out there, just if you receive that words or just really what's your final advice? You've been through a nightmare and back in a time when during a pandemic, during the riots, during everything going on, then you're also going through personal crisis. What's your words of advice?
My words of advice are just keep rocking. You got to go. I mean, you're not done till you're done. As my father always said, you just got to keep going. And if you love your job and you love what you do, it just rocks. It just goes. And you got great support. That's a huge thing.
Build that team around you that doesn't let you down.
That's it. Amen. Totally.
Amen.
Keep that ship afloat.
All right.
Well, thank you for joining us. It was awesome to have you. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, or email us at jailtalkpodcast@gmail.com.
Sheriff Nancy, my friend Nancy, thank you so much for coming in here today. All you out there, don't ever forget, no sheriff stands alone.
Nope.
I'm Paul Laney.
And I'm Lauren Matthews.
You've been listening to Jail Talk, and we'll see you next time.